So how do you choose a bug out location? Where do you even start looking? This is a question that I see a lot of the South African folk actually asking, because we're not entirely sure how you go about finding a place where you can remain long term, where you're welcome, and you can set up an absolutely off-grid camp. In this video, I'm going to give you my best pointers for choosing a bug out location, where to even start looking, and what the considerations are around that location. I'm Clarice, you're on the Live Ready channel. For finding a bug out location, the first thing you'd want to do is find an area that is less populated. So whatever the disaster is that you're preparing for, whether it's because you're preparing for a fire, or because you're concerned about flooding in the area where you live, or because you're concerned about unrest or something else, you might want to start looking for an area that you can evacuate to, where you'll be safe, where you can take your family and stay for a while. So the first thing you want to do is have a good look at the country that you live in. Identify the areas that are less densely populated. It really helps to find a 1 to 50,000 scale topo map of these areas. Then you can start having a look at what kinds of resources are in that area. So I'm currently in the Moordenaars Karoo in the Western Cape in South Africa. I'm camping at a place called BUFFELSRIVER Riverside camping. If you're watching this video and you don't have the foggiest idea where to start looking for a bug out location, my best advice to you is go wild camping often. Go camp off grid somewhere. You'll start to find places that are outside of the usual routes that other people take, and you might even find that you have a place that's close to your heart that you can go and bug out in should you need to. Camping helps you to learn the lay of the land, and it helps you to get used to living without amenities. You get to know the terrain, the climate, and everything else in that area. What kind of resources are available to you? We're so used to having water coming out of the faucet and flipping a switch to get electricity. But once you're displaced from your home, whether you land up in an urban environment in some or the other disaster camp, or whether you land up bugging out somewhere in the wilderness until whatever threat has passed, you're going to need to get used to not having the usual resources that you have. Ooh, big tick, go away. Thought that was a spider. So there are some things in the area that you'll need to take consideration of. If you're going to be outside of your home, even if you are in an urban area, you're going to end up dealing with things like disease, especially waterborne diseases, especially in the more populated areas. You're going to deal with things like ticks, like I just had on my leg, fleas, spiders, all kinds of creepy crawlies. So you want to be prepared for those things. And the area that you're going to move in is going to determine what kinds of things you have to deal with. Once you've identified an area that is less densely populated, you can start looking a little bit more closely at your topo maps. This is something that I place a lot of emphasis on, is campsite selection. Where are you safe? Where have you got the resources that you need? And where are you actually welcome? I would take a topo map and find a perennial water source. It doesn't necessarily have to be a river. You can find things like springs, fountains, or dams as well. I think people underestimate how important it is to have a decent water source nearby your camp. The second thing that I would look for is a place where I could find shelter from some of the elements in the area. That would be particularly wind and sun. So having some shade is really important, especially in arid conditions. Having a place where you are sheltered from the wind is really important if you're in blizzard sort of area, or if you're in a particularly windy area, because it can actually damage your equipment long term. Finding firewood in the area that you pitch your camp in is also important. We use fire in order to purify water, and we also use it to cook our food and to warm ourselves. You'll be surprised how quickly you get cold in an area like this, especially in winter, where you don't have any other means to warm yourself. A fire is going to make a huge difference to you, but it also means that you need wood sources. Should you face something like civil unrest, it might be wise to move quite far out of populated areas. As it happens, the further you move out of the cities, the less resources there are at hand, and the more you need to start turning to primitive sources in order to meet your needs. The This tick is actually crawling its way back to me now. Maybe that's why it gets so big, is because it's good at locating resources in the wilderness. That brings me to food. As a resource, we really need food as well. So make sure that wherever you are, you have access to some of the food sources in the area. And if you're an avid huntsman, you might want to choose a place where you can go hunting for game. You also want a bit of concealment from casual observation. So finding a forested area means that you're going to have access to wood. There will probably be water, because wherever there is a forest, there's usually quite a bit of rainfall, or there is a water source. And you're also going to have concealment from casual observation. That brings me to the last point. You really want to be welcome in the area where you are camping. If you have friends or family who live on large, vast open spaces, who are happy to accommodate you and can actually do so, that would also be a really great place to start. One more thing, when we bug out, because we don't have access to the resources that we usually have in our homes, we need the gear and we need the skills and the knowledge to make sure that we can acquire those resources from the environment, and that we are actually able to meet our needs in shelter, water, food, core body temperature regulation, and all other survival needs. This means that you need to acquire skills, which takes work, time, effort, in order to acquire the gear that you need and to remain mobile and set up a camp such as my base camp over here. It is going to take you a bit of time. It's a path to walk, but it means that you are able to pack your vehicle, grab your family, your kids, your pets, get everybody into a vehicle if you need to leave your home. I've evacuated home twice before, so it's really close to my heart to be able to be mobile and to set up a shelter somewhere else when I need to leave home. I hope you found this video really useful. Remember to drop a comment and to let me know what your thoughts are on finding a bug out location. Remember to also check out the Live Ready Patreon page. It gives you access to the Discord server, which is basically a forum. And if you're looking for a community of like-minded people where you can ask advice and comment on topics before they land up right here on the YouTube channel, that's going to be the place. It also helps me to continue making videos such as this one for you guys. Until the next time, live ready. That was the most massive tick. At the moment, I'm its primary resource.